All right, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Hillary Wilson from Rhabit Analytics, and we're going to do a Rhabit Partner Spotlight. So this is a little bit different for us. What we wanted to do is spend some time really acknowledging Catalyst Connection and the relationships that they've built here in the Pittsburgh and Pittsburgh regional markets. So I'm going to take a quick second to introduce myself. My name is Hillary Wilson. This is a picture of me when I had bangs at the beginning of 2020. You can see things are definitely different now, and we're going to talk a bit about that today too. I'm the head of sales and channel partnerships. I have 15 years in leading teams, both in technology as well as in retail. And my area of expertise is leadership development, organizational development, employee engagement, and retention. I also have with me the head of human resources from Acutronic and the head of organizational development over at Catalyst Connection. So Renee, do you mind introducing yourself?
Sure. Hi, I'm, as Hillary said, Renee Shiraishi. I'm the head of human resources for Acutronic, a global manufacturing company with locations in Pittsburgh, Austin, and Baltimore, as well as internationally in Switzerland, India, and Germany. We've been using Rhabit for about 6 months.
Okay.
I'm excited to be here and talk a little bit more about employee engagement and the Rhabit tool and our partnership with Catalyst, of course.
Thanks, Renee. My name is Dave Ray. I'm the Managing Director of Organizational Development with Catalyst Connection. That's a picture of me with some hair right before COVID. And my 8-year-old decided that it would be a good idea to shave it off sometime in March. So here I am. Most of the people on the call are from MEP centers. I'm looking down the list, and a lot of the names look familiar. And some are from manufacturers also. So as an MEP center, our mission is to help small, medium-sized manufacturers grow and sustain their business. We help them through different consulting services. And I've been with Catalyst for 13 years. We're really proud of the strategic partnership that we've developed with Rhabit. We met Rhabit just over a year ago at one of our Digital Bridge conferences, and have been strengthening that partnership over the past couple of months. When COVID hit, Rhabit came out with a free, no strings attached COVID engagement survey, and we've been using that not only internally but with some of our clients. And the data itself, which we'll get into, is super valuable. But what I like most about Rhabit is their employees. I mean, I can't speak enough about the level of support that we've received from Hillary and Kevin and Alex and the rest of the team over at Rhabit. This engagement survey that they saw as an opportunity to help manufacturers and other companies engage their employees while working from home and dealing with the strains and constraints of COVID. They've just been super supportive and really appreciate the partnership thus far, and looking forward to developing that partnership even further.
And I'd like to echo in on that comment. The support from Rhabit has been incredible throughout this experience. Everyone that I've interacted with, reached out to for help, offered suggestions to, has just been very great to work with, very customer focused.
For sure.
Thanks.
And the platform itself, as we'll see, is if the best, if not the best, HR employee feedback platforms that I've ever come across. I know using it internally at Catalyst, we've identified some blind spots that we weren't aware of, and we're able to address them to better serve the people that we work with every day. So Hillary, thank you very much for putting this together. We're looking forward to participating on this webinar.
Yeah, thank you, Dave. And just a brief description of Rhabit. What we do here is we collect feedback of really just any sort of data point you want to be able to discover within the organization. So we were collecting feedback on leadership behaviors. We were collecting feedback on objective behaviors, whatever was under the sun. And when COVID-19 hit, one of our big philosophies at Rhabit is how can we help? How can we really serve the community that we're in? Because we know that leadership influences how people perform at work. And I don't even just mean like hitting KPIs, but whether or not they want to continue showing up. And with the COVID-19 suite, what my objective was to be able to give people something for free that they wouldn't have been able to collect otherwise. you can do a survey once a year and hope that you're going to be able to find out in that snapshot of time how happy people are and influence it. But if you're waiting year over year, that's a really long gap. I mean, again, 2020, it might be a trope at this point, but has proven that you really need to be continually listening to the individuals that come to work for you every single day. And we wanted to be able to give that opportunity to people that otherwise may not be able to have that budget built in, or may not have necessarily the framework in place to be able to quickly deploy something like that. So that's just a brief background about Rhabit and why we're doing this. But, you know, I've only known Dave for about a year. I've known Renee for about 6 months. Dave, how did you and Renee meet? Because I understand you two have been cohorts for quite a while.
Yeah, we met, oh geez, Renee, what, 10 plus years ago when Renee was
2008.
2008. Wow. So when Renee was working for a manufacturer in Washington County, Renee and I were working on some projects together, and we decided that it would be nice to put together a peer cohort group of like-minded HR professionals in Washington County. So Renee and I partnered on that, and that group is actually still in existence today, formed under a different membership framework, but we're really proud of the work that we did there. And Renee and I have been working together over the past 12 years and really appreciate her leadership and her expertise in HR and you know, in other aspects of manufacturing. And can't say enough about, and I really lean on her as not only as an advocate, as for her expert opinion when it comes to really value the relationship that we have.
Thanks, Dave. And I value yours. Dave is incredible to work with. His OD background is awe-inspiring. And so when we both kind of moved out of the Washington County sector, you know, Dave and his group put together another far-reaching HR peer group. And prior to COVID, we were meeting every month at different locations. And then when COVID struck, we said, wow, we probably need to meet more often virtually. And so I know that group has been so incredible for just discussing current situations, not only with COVID, but other, you know, challenges businesses are facing right now. And it was through that group that Dave introduced us to Rhabit. And, you know, we had implemented all of these changes based on restrictions, based on business. And we had no idea how our employees felt, you know, if they felt like we were doing the right thing, if they needed more from us. And so when Dave introduced Rhabit, I went to my boss and said, I really think we really need to do this to start getting feedback from our employees. So we did start out with the free COVID suites and the return to work questions, and have developed our catalog of questions since then. And it's just been such an invaluable tool to make sure we have an engaged workforce and that we're meeting their needs. And as Dave mentioned earlier, finding out where those blind spots are.
Yeah. And if I could just tag on to that, Renee, you know, at Catalyst, we work primarily with manufacturers, and manufacturers are very comfortable and familiar with measuring the manufacturing process, right? KPIs and output and on-time delivery and quality and product. So they're very familiar and comfortable with measuring that kind of data. In fact, when you walk out onto some manufacturing floors, you see visual dashboards where they're constantly measuring process. What Rhabit brings to the table is a process for continuously measuring the most valuable asset in most organizations are its people, right? And so it's being able to drive results through people by understanding opinions, attitudes, thoughts, concerns, and being able to manage that just like we manage the manufacturing process every day. So the more we manage the people and engage the people, you know, the research has shown and our experience indicates that the more gets done. So,
and I just want to illustrate one of the reasons why we invited Renee specifically as our partner client for this webinar is Renee really is a wealth of knowledge. We have been leaning on her as a source of a product support, of trying to understand how we can continue to improve and support the manufacturing segment, because you really have been underserved for so long, especially when it comes to employee engagement and leadership development. So I also want to make notice that there is a question and answer section in the webinar that if you want to type in some questions for either myself, Dave, or Renee, if we can't get them today, I'll get you answers and respond to them as quickly as possible. Because I really feel like the three of us do have a lot of authority on the subject, especially Renee and Dave. So please, if you need to take advantage of that, it's there for you. But I also want to take the opportunity. So we've been talking a lot about this measurement tool that Rhabit uses in order to be able to collect engagement information. And most of the time it's these long forms, or you have to bribe people. Our big tagline used to be, if feedback was fun, you wouldn't have to bribe them with pizza. But the way that we actually collect feedback is very fast, it's very easy, and it's intuitive. So what we do, for example, Renee's population, once a week, we send out a deck of cards that formats to their phone, it formats to their desktop. However they want to submit this information, they can do it that way. And Renee was just sharing, she'll share in a little bit, how via text messaging, a lot more people were responding to the feedback because it was faster and easier. I remember back in the days where I commuted, and I shouldn't be admitting this, but when I was if you're in the Pittsburgh region, I live on the other side of the Squirrel Hill Tunnel. And when I was at a complete stop in the morning, I would quickly give my feedback and I was done for the day. So what you're going to see here is this is what we call a feedback card. And this is about an individual that I work with on a regular basis. She's a project manager. I've interacted with her in the last 2 weeks. And Rhabit has 42 different habits based on if they're an individual contributor, a leader, or an executive, and what sort of observable behaviors those people should be demonstrating on a regular basis. With the engagement cards, of course, it's much more lightweight. So if you were to try the COVID-19 engagement suite, it's just questions that apply to COVID-19. And there's around, I believe, 42 different, that's a coincidence, engagement questions that are about your overall engagement, return to work, or COVID-19 in particular. But we're showing you the full platform here, especially since there's MEP partners that might be interested in this for their client. There's a 3-point rating scale. So if you're familiar with the rating scale, even to the point where you've used Yelp before, anything less than a 5 is considered subpar performance. We've normed ourselves to the idea that a 5-star scale, if you're a 4 or 5, you're just doing your job. If you're anything lower, you're on a PIP. So here we made it very psychologically safe, very easy to say, you know what? I see this person doing it often. I see them doing it sometimes or rarely. And these are actually 2 negative points of feedback, but it doesn't really feel like it. So most people are going to swipe honestly. And we actually see in the beginning, when people don't feel like it's anonymous or psychologically safe, the scores will be fairly high. And then they start to level off over time. And you can really start to see how people get truthful and the feedback progresses. So I'm going to go ahead and swipe often. And over week, you'll get different questions for different people so that it always stays fresh. We see that participation rates hover anywhere between 70 and 80% for an average client. And it also does change from location to location. Some people have an HQ here in Pittsburgh that might be at a 90% participation, whereas they may have one, let's say in San Diego, that's at 30% participation. It's a tricky word today. That's something that you can influence. And Renee, if you don't mind, while I swipe through this, can you share a little bit how you've been trying to influence that at Acutronic?
Sure. So one of our locations is in Baltimore, and it's primarily a production facility. And looking at the results, was a little concerned that the participation rate for that location was so low. So I actually went down and I talked to individuals that didn't have 100% participation and just said, why? Are you not getting the surveys? Are you uncomfortable sharing the information? Help me understand this a little bit better, because your feedback is important to us and we want your voice to be heard with everybody else's. And the most common area there that was leading to the low participation was that although the employees all had individual email addresses, they didn't have individual computers. And with their jobs, they weren't sitting next to or in front of a computer as they were working. So it was just a matter of not logging in, not seeing it, and not responding. So when I told them that they could sign up to get them via text, a number of our employees readily jumped at that opportunity. And we've seen the numbers go from 20% participation to 60% participation since we started using the text feature.
That's a huge lift. And that's what we have all these different integrations to make sure that we're getting to people where they are, because let's be honest with ourselves. If we rely on people to sit down and submit the information themselves, it's rare to seldom, and it's an uphill battle. And that's what we're trying to overcome. Here you're going to see one of those engagement cards. And this is how Renee started. This is how a lot of our clients start, is just with engagement. And here you'll see opportunity for growth. In my company, I have ongoing opportunities to learn and grow. Perhaps there's really no L&D push right now, and that's something that you've been thinking about and you're trying to get dollars from your executives for. If your people are swiping no, you'll see that and you'll be able to influence that and bring that to the executive team to say, hey, our people are craving the opportunity to grow. How can we support them? You can really get ahead of some future issues. Like if you're worried about attrition and the regrettable loss, the people that want to grow and learn are the people that you want to keep in the building. And that's something that you can influence here. So I work for Rhabit. I'm always learning and growing. I'm going to say yes. Objectives are a whole nother thing, but it's just part of our thing, our platform. And then here we have a quick poll. So this is another thing, ad hoc. Right now it's benefits season. I'm so sorry to everyone that just did a loud groan. But what you can do midway through benefits season is even quickly test everyone to say, have you submitted your benefits package yet? Yes or no? You can have it close within a week or 2 weeks, and then understand like whether or not you have a huge wave of people that are about to submit all their benefits information, or perhaps are waiting because they don't understand it, and get ahead of it. Here, we're all about COVID-19. So the company's communication around COVID-19 have been timely and transparent. I'm going to say yes, but if they're swiping no, there's a way for you to intervene. And what, Renee?
I wanted to just mention how we were using the quick poll questions as well. We're actually using it for compliance. So the DOJ came out with some best practices on collecting employee feedback on compliance programs. So we've actually launched weekly a different compliance type question to measure and record that information so that in the event we need it in the future, we can show the active participation in getting the feedback from our employees on our compliance programs.
That's fantastic. What a great way to like really utilize the tools that you have in-house.
Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to collect and record that data anonymously. So I really appreciate that feature.
Now, are your folks using high fives? Because you've actually brought up to us the suggestion of high fives for teams. Are people using this little recognition part?
Yes. The first time I logged in and saw it, it was like my heart grew 2 sizes. But yes, and I see it from all levels in the organization. I see peer-to-peer, I see supervisors with their team, and I see team members doing it for their supervisors. So yeah, we're absolutely using it. We've only had to edit one, so that's been great. And it was only because of some HIPAA concerns, but.
Fair enough. All right. Well, that's always good to hear. And there's also a little suggestion button where people can anonymously input their suggestions they may have. They can also identify themselves if it's something they want to have a conversation about. And this goes to somebody like a Renee. It can go to your executive team, whoever you want to be that suggestion answerer goes right into there. So you can always ship that right off and you're good to go.
One more thing on the high five is if you're not comfortable with everybody in the organization seeing it, you can privately high five somebody, which is a nice feature as well.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. There's definitely been a couple of thank you for covering my high fives that actually might happen after this demo because for somebody that helped me out put something together real fast. But what happens is you get this deep dive, and this is me. So for the sake of example, I am this person that's getting this feedback. We're trying to bring a level of self-awareness to leaders that otherwise wouldn't have been available. So I can see that my communication score isn't so great. And if I go back and forth, I can see who my feedback providers are, but I can't see who's providing me with the feedback, but I can see that I'm changing over time. So I know that I'm not good at giving people deadlines. Maybe I'm not very confident with it, or I need some additional feedback on how to do it. There's little micro tips within Rhabit. And this is how people can improve. So a personal anecdote is my communication score was actually very weak with this because I was too nice. Hey, when you get a chance, if you can do this for me, and I wasn't giving finite deadlines, things were dropping off. I became the bottleneck. I quickly changed that and I could see my own habit improvement score over, and I had to actually go back 6 months to see the gradual improvement. But it went from this orange, like, uh-oh, all the way up to I'm in the mid 90s now. So it's nice to be able to influence your own performance without having to have any interventions. And then what this all feeds into and what this means is that you get this dashboard. And this is where especially our manufacturing people love it, because these are clear indicators for what's going right, what's going wrong, and how you can influence it in the organization. So here I have my entire organization. As Renee said, she was able to like quickly go into the Baltimore team, see what was going on, and make decisions on how to influence it. And then last, this is where the nitty gritty of Rhabit really comes in. Renee, have your Power BI dashboards been built yet?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Use them every week, if not once a week, twice a week.
Good. How's Alexander's support been with that?
Oh my gosh. I am a total fangirl of Alex. He has been incredible to work with, very patient. Again, the suggestions or the requests are always met very positively. I couldn't have done the presentation to our board that I did without his help.
It's always good news. And one of the things too is, as a partner to Dave, we can go into this together and decide whether or not there are certain interventions that need to be made for your leaders. So I can hand this off to Dave and say, hey, is there anything you can do to support Renee with, for example, it looks like dependability in this senior manager role is really struggling in this organization. This is a theoretical one, or perhaps core values are struggling. And maybe we need to reevaluate the core values and how people are aligning to them. So as a partner, I can always bring this to Dave and say, hey, we've noticed this. Is there anything we can do to help? Because the whole point of our partnership is to grow people's businesses. We especially love small to mid-sized businesses because they are the core of the United States. You know, like that's who we are as a country. Is the entire country was built on the backbone of small and medium-sized businesses. We need to preserve that, make sure the best talent remains in those organizations. We're growing those leaders to be the best that they can to make those businesses successful.
And Catalyst does such an amazing job, especially with first-time leaders, and really introducing them to that leadership role and setting them up for success. They have a couple different programs, and I will let Dave speak to them. But as an end user, I can't say enough positive things about them.
Yeah, David, are there any complementary product or programs that go along with Rhabit?
Well, yeah. So, and this is completely unplanned, but it really dovetails nicely because Alexander and Kevin are former leaders at DDI, right? And they came out of DDI, and a lot of DDI is one of the world's largest training and consulting firms in the world. They're a global organization based in Bridgeville, Pennsylvania, right outside of Pittsburgh. And so a lot of what is within Rhabit has the flavor of DDI. And at Catalyst, we have several of us who are trained facilitators to deliver DDI curriculum. So the behaviors embedded in Rhabit are linked to the DDI modules. So as an MEP center, we can help our manufacturing clients bridge learning gaps that are identified through Rhabit using the DDI curriculum. And it's a nice one-to-one match. So we have found that to be very, very beneficial.
Yeah, that's actually something I hadn't even considered going into this webinar, is that DDI is one of our partners, and we did bridge out of them like that. We're all about competencies and observable behaviors. And the one thing that we can do as a complement to that is show the improvement over time. So again, if you have to go to your board, if you have to go to your executives and say, our program is working, we can show that impact. So this shows impact that Dave, as a professional, is prescribing the right things for the organization. And it shows the impact that Renee is choosing the right things and that she is making that the difference within the company. So now you know that your dollars are being spent wisely, and you can justify any continued programs going forward. So that was one of the things we really wanted to do, was complement any sort of leadership development or competency-based programs to make sure that there's no opaqueness around whether or not your leaders are improving over time. And that's what you can see here in these different dashboards. So I'm going to hop out of Rhabit itself and check to see if we have any questions. Not yet, and that's okay.
There's a comment in the chat.
Yeah. Our
Oh.
friend.
Yeah, Dave, do you want to take that?
So Tina is asking that DDI's competency framework is similar to the behaviors embedded within Rhabit.
That is correct. So we actually have our own habit library, which are agnostic from DDI's, but it's based on the same principles, that it is competencies based on different roles. If you've done a job analysis, you can prescribe different habits to that, and then the observable behaviors that complement under it. And it looks like Brett has a question. How does Rhabit align directly with businesses' practical needs and KPIs, including wellness? So I'm going to go ahead and answer that live. Rhabit actually has an OKR or objective component within it. I don't think Renee's using that quite yet. That tends to be like our 200 level Rhabit user course, but that's certainly something that we can onboard. And what happens is that, and this factors into, and wellness is tricky. That's a tricky one to answer, but I'm at least going to answer the objective one to start. The leader's behaviors and performance from the competency standpoint to their actual KPIs. So you can see, once you get to that succession planning chart, it's not just like performance and potential, it's performance and behavior. So alignment to the overall organization's goals. As far as wellness goes, let me check with our resident IO to try to get his take and respond back to you. And I do have your email, Brett, so I will get that back to you as quickly as possible, because I know wellness is a huge part of 2020 and taking care of oneself and one's people. It's my personal philosophy that wellness starts with having a good leader, because then people feel safe at work. They feel safe expressing their concerns at work, but we can get something a little bit more concrete than that.
There's also in the questionnaires on COVID and organizational support, questions regarding the stress of working remotely versus being in the office, having a support structure at home. So there's a number of questions that can give you some insights into wellness from that perspective.
Yeah, that's a really good call. Thanks, Renee. We did want the COVID-19 questions not to be whether or not people are fearful or whether or not people have concerns, but also do they have the support needed or, is their family life at home conflicting with their ability to be effective at work? We wanted to make sure that it wasn't just about, can you sit at your desk from 9 to 5, but like what sort of arrangements can we make as leaders and managers to make sure that you feel supported and you feel safe, working where you are, and that your job is safe. So I hope that answers, but yeah, Brett, I'll send you an email after we're done. Are there any other questions? You guys have been great. Thank you. So Renee, do you have anything else that you want to share about like your experience with Rhabit before we wrap up?
Rhabit has just been a great partner throughout the COVID situation that we're in. Again, having access to our employees to provide this type of information back to us in real time through text, through email, it has been invaluable. And the information that we gather, it's great to see how the numbers change to make us aware of positives and opportunities. The suggestion feature has been great. We've received a lot of good, valuable suggestions from our team on things we hadn't considered. Like I said, we started with the COVID, but we branched out to the leadership habits. And I love that there are so many resources available for the individual to reach out without asking their manager or necessarily HR. They can get this on their own. They have access to it when they want it or need it. It's a great tool, and I can't say enough positive things about it.
Yeah. And we just want to thank you as a partner. I mean, again, both Dave, he's incredible to work with, and he's always there whenever I have questions or I need him, or if there's something that we observe that we need support with. But you also have been somebody really great to lean on. We're always building our product roadmap. We're always trying to improve. We practice what we preach here at Rhabit. So the feedback that we get from the people that actually use it is so critical. So I just want to thank both you and Dave for being partners to our success as we continue to grow. And Dave, do you have anything you want to share before we go?
No, I really appreciate everybody's involvement and sitting on the call today. And Renee, thank you as always for your support and advocating for Catalyst and Rhabit. And look forward to continued success with both of you.
All right. Well, if anybody has anything they need, feel free to reach out to me. I'm right through Rhabit's website. It's Hillary, Hilary at rhabit.co. Always happy to answer questions. You may already know Dave, so reach out to him. And I'm always happy to share. So thank you, everyone. And thank you, Tina. And we'll have a great rest of your day. Talk to you guys soon.
See ya.
Take care.